the monitor, Michelle. The facing me though. Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, did Jim say anything about, when? Yeah, I know it's,
I can't see the news.
No.
Okay. All right, executive session begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last call to be able to turn in a form to speak. So if anybody has a form, you need to turn it in immediately. Thank you.
While you're in here, please remember, because of county requirements, that you have to have your mask on and wearing it appropriately. Otherwise, we would have to call the meeting, so please continue to do that. I really appreciate your understanding in this matter.
There we go. I'd like to call our regular meeting to order. And let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold up. We're going to have to redo the pledge, actually, because last year we changed it so that a student would actually lead the pledge, so we apologize for that. There she is over there. Sorry, I had too much on my mind tonight. Thank you so much. If you could get a mic for her, Bob, that would be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go Bills.
Hey. And that was much better than we did, so thank you.
And I totally apologize to you. Okay, and the first item is our hearing on the internet safety.
This is a requirement that we do every single year. It's one of the state requirements. I'll get through it really quickly, and I think you need two down there, and here for on this side. And so to the board, email, we have what do we do for protective measures for email? We have a candidate filter or a DPL protection, and we have math flow restrictions. I do know they work because Keshemet Technology comes and sees me about it. We do have one of the technology people in the audience here, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Internet access for filtering internet, we have IBOS. We have an internet content filter groups based on user levels, so therefore not everyone has the same rights. And we have enhanced cybersecurity that monitors web traffic, so therefore if something gets overloaded or starts a bunch of spam was coming in, it can block some of that. I'm sure students could even speak to this more because every once in a while you type in something wrong and then it blocks it. Network access, security log on for faculty, staff, and students. So passwords have certain complexity to them, and we do change them every 3 months. And whether access is by Active Directory and authentication. So it's just an added benefit that maybe now if you looked at your phone, you tried to log in, it wouldn't let you into the regular site. We have a written safety policy. We use NetSmarts and Common Sense Media for our K-12 Internet Safety Education program. We have a NetSmarts workshop that is interactive educational program from the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. And this helps teach the children on safer online and offline activities, and that's important, to learn as you're growing up of smart choices. Common Sense Media provides high-quality digital literacy. And Education Law 2D, this is something that came out a couple of years ago, and we're really working hard on making sure this is all enacted. I think staff is doing a great job with it. And what it does is it protects students from personally identifiable information. So by using this software, It connects, the contracts will be put in place with the third-party vendors, because what that does is the third-party vendors have to have safeguards on their machine. So Parent Portal would be a great one to think about. When you log into that, that's the software we buy, we don't own it. And they have to have all these measures in place, otherwise we wouldn't be able to contract with them. And any software purchased through BOCES is covered by this Ed Law 2D or any company we purchase it through. And we do annual training for the staff on this. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much. That's it for the hearing.
All right, so as we get our regular meeting underway, I'd like to welcome all who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School District's Board of Education. There are 2 periods of recognition of guests listed in the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items, and the second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personnel complaints against any individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, you must have filled out a form, the appropriate form, and turned it into the district clerk. As per policy 1514, public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents only is limited to 15 minutes total unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not be engaging in dialogue with members of the community this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and take seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and celebrations. Please be advised that this meeting is being streamed live and the recording will be posted on the Iroquois website. With that, we're ready for our student report.
Right down there. And Andy, if you could make sure the mic is on for them, that would be great. Mike's right there, just in the aisle if you need some help.
What does that get?
You did it.
1, 2, check. My name is Andy Jacobs, otherwise known as Coach Jacobs, and I'm in the middle school as we call it the Board of Conduct Officer. I look at it as assistant principal. I've been asked to pick 2 individuals to speak on behalf of the middle school and our opening, and I have 2 fine young ladies that are in the 8th grade.
Hi, thank you for inviting me here to talk today about my experience as a student.
So go ahead and get you started again. We're having Coach Jacobs turn that down just a little bit for you, make it easier.
Hi, thank you for inviting me here to talk today about my experience as a student here at Iroquois. My name is Isabella Carlino. I'm in 8th grade and I am on Team Helicopter. I've been a student of Iroquois since 4th grade and I am very happy to share with you how much I love it here. Starting 8th grade this year, we knew it was still going to be different than what a normal year looks like without masks and socially distancing. But I was very excited after the first day because the teachers were very welcoming, upbeat, and had positive attitudes and were very willing to help us with anything we needed. Thankfully, this is what my experience has always been here at Iroquois. I still prefer school without masks and believe they should be a choice, but all my teachers have been very good about mask breaks and allowing us to go outside.
Hello, my name is Claire Bart and I am an 8th grade on Team Helicopter. I have also been chosen to speak here today about the experience in school so far. The first amazing thing about school is that there is reduced social distancing and there are no more cohorts. I love being in school with all my friends and being able to have classes with them. In the lunchroom, we are now in a regular seating arrangement with 6 to each circular table. Although we have to sit in the same seat every day due to contact tracing, it is still a great experience and feels as though we are getting back to normal.
It is also great that we can use our lockers again instead of having to carry everything with us, including the shields. Having a locker during the day allows us to stay more organized and get to class faster. It is also fun to be able to personalize our own space.
Another thing I love, especially this year, is the culture of the building. All students are very welcoming to the new fifth graders and they help them get around the school. I've noticed many positive interactions between eighth graders and fifth graders. One of these was when two fifth graders didn't know how to get to the meeting spot of the Boys and Girls Club, and one of my eighth grade peers showed them the way. Another great thing is SEL Live. We get to participate and it is a great thing to look forward to in the mornings.
Also, being able to switch to see different people in every class is great and makes the day go by. I like that I can still see my friends from the other team through the day. I have been very happy here. I love my friends, my teachers, and all the staff. I hope I can always stay here at Iroquois. Again, thank you for allowing me to talk today and share my experience.
One last exciting thing is that sports are up and running. After a year of limited spectators, parents, friends, and family can now cheer us on. For me, it is encouraging to look up in the stands during a volleyball game and see familiar faces. Thank you and go Chiefs!
Thank you so much, ladies, for coming and speaking to the board tonight. Okay, and that brings us to board discussion and news we're sharing. The first item that we have is looking at Erie County COVID protocols and having a conversation. One board member did approach me and asked if we could have this conversation, and I thought it was a good time to do so.
Even before you get started with that, there was an email that some board members were getting about a concern with instructional delivery at the elementary level. So I just wanted to update the board on that because I got some news today on that. 3 different parents, I think, did contact you on that, just asking some questions. And as with all programs, we're reviewing them. You know, this is new, it's something new this year. And the principal reviewed it with teachers, and they reviewed it with other districts for their ideas to see what they're doing. With it, we're going to modify our plan. We're going to use some of the federal funds. We're going to use we're going to hire 2 or 3 people, so you would see that coming, which is why I feel it's so important for you to know, because it's financial. And so we'll be reallocating those. And the reason for this is what we've seen now that's different than last year is there are some people going on quarantine repetitively very quickly. So if I think of this one child, a brother, we'll say, had COVID, so he was quarantined because of his brother. And then I'll say his other brother got COVID then, 12 days later, which put him back on quarantine. That was a new experience for this that we're doing this year, so that quick turnaround. Also, we've noticed because of the window we had that parents were not logging in. They weren't able to get the child in there, so we want to increase that window of time because again, it's like today you're not in quarantine, tomorrow you are. So that, I mean, I know if I was at home with my children and elementary age, who would take care of them? Would I call the grandparents in, not call the grandparents in? Would they have a friend? And so we want to increase that window for them. And also we've noticed that last year the periods seemed more consistent. And this year, depending on when results get back, whether how many weekends are involved, you could have anyone in there from 8 days to 4 days. Why I say 8 is because the weekend is 2 days, 10-day quarantine, or 4 days. If you have 2 weekends in there, then there's a day late from when the testing's done and everything. So what they did is the principals actually, I got it today about 3 o'clock, where they had met, talked to teachers, we're working on it, and we're actually, and they met with other people. So what they're looking to do, the staff will be given 1 school day to get to work together, to look at actually what the student needs for it. And then they'll contact the family to pick up the work, to make sure that's good on the second day after being sent to quarantine. That's when the RTI teacher, this is the teacher who's having the direct contact with them, because this way they can have direct exposure to them. Every family might be different. Maybe the mother is sick, and so therefore we have to treat that child different, or father, because they are not able to help them during the day and on the grade level. And then they'll support it, and the teacher will set aside 30 to 60 minutes daily to be with the kid to clarify work and make sure they're good. And if the child is struggling or the family is struggling, the classroom teacher is going to also step in and have more support for them So we're thinking a child will have instruction, should be right around 2 to 2.5 hours daily with this, which with that change is why we need more people. In surveying other districts, and nothing about other districts, we would actually probably be doing more than a district to support this. But again, we would like the children to come back without losing any ground, because if you're quarantined once a month for 10 days, you know, that's a lot of school, and we hadn't seen that before last year, so that was one thing in data that we're seeing already. We were looking to put a safeguard in it. I might come back and change it later, depending on what we see again and what's being supportive from everyone. I don't know.
So you had said that it would be the new, what you want to do would require us to hire two new people.
Two to three people, correct. Yep. So we're going to look to see what we can do, because we do have some daily building subs to start putting some supports in place right now. Some families are doing marvelous with what we have now. There's a lot of people that are very satisfied. They're getting exactly what they need. I've seen some emails that they had as evidence from the teachers and everything's going on. But as you saw with other emails, there's other families that are different. So we want to, you know, we're trying to support. We have a lot of families in a lot of different situations, and we're looking to make sure we have the support that we can for them.
I just wanted to say thank you to the administrators and teachers for revisiting this. I think that it was a concern. The initial plan was a concern of mine, and I'm really pleased that they are going to give students access. You know, there are a lot of technological advances that have happened, and we can take advantage of them so that kids aren't missing instruction time. And it's really also a big reflection on the change in the variant of seeing all of these infections in young children. And it's really concerning, because it's way more than it was last year. So,
Absolutely, and with the quarantine even more last year,
Yeah.
with the hybrid, where we're finding we're getting the kids quarantined, are places we hadn't experienced before, just with the difference of students coming in of where they are. They're all teachers are doing great, the kids are doing great with keeping the right distancing, but more people, greater density.
And Doug, if we see quarantine numbers increase, we'll continue to revisit our.
Yeah, we're going to continue to revisit it. Right now, the high school, middle school, so we'll say 6-12 seem to be doing well, but they also had a different model because they had multiple teachers. So by each teacher meeting with them, we'll say with a 4 core, there were 4 times they were meeting during the day, where the elementary was just a singular time. So a big change. But we might have to change it again in a month as things change. Thank you. Sorry to take that one, but I thought it was important to get it in here, this piece with protocols.
So in talking about the Erie County COVID protocols, is it really Erie County protocols, or is it state protocols?
Both, because Erie County came out first, and then the state came out and the protocols, and then Erie County revisited theirs to make sure they parallel with the state, so they both have parallel requirements.
The idea was that we would talk about the possibility of our board writing a resolution that we would send to the state that essentially says we'll follow the guidelines and the protocols. We're mandated to do so, and we would not go against what the state is mandating, but that we would ask the state politely in a resolution to address some of the concerns of many of our citizens and the inconsistencies within the guidelines, and to look at the possibility of giving us some semblance of hope of when we might be able to remove masks from our students, what that would look like, what would have to happen, because that's not in the guidelines currently. And did I say to remove the inconsistencies?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think I accurately stated what the board member wanted. What does everybody think?
I do like the idea of a resolution. I think one thing that we need to be very careful of, because we are not healthcare workers, we don't have the expertise, that individual school boards should not be making health-related decisions. Those need to be made by the professionals, in their field. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of room that the state, and county needs to look at. I mean, if we're in an area and we have very low COVID numbers and COVID transmission numbers, I think they have to offer some flexibility. The one size fits all scenario, we've dealt with that in education for years. It's added a lot of extra expense on the individual school districts, ours included. So yeah, I'd be in support of, writing a resolution and hopefully, have the state take a closer look at, what they're actually mandating us to do, and does it make any sense?
I would like to hear what might be in this resolution before
I think
voting to write it.
that is what we're discussing tonight. What would we put in it?
Right.
I think that it would probably, I think first and foremost, it would say that our district is going to follow the state mandates. The second thing is that we would be asking the state to revisit their mandates and to see, I'm trying to think of what one inconsistency has to do with sports. It's my understanding that if you have parents and visitors in the football stands, and they're allowed to be unmasked. But if we have a student who is not on the field and he's sitting on the bench, he has to wear a mask, and that doesn't make sense. If you can social distance and be outside in all these other situations where we can take off masks, why is that football player having to sit on the bench with mask on? So to ask them to look at those kinds of inconsistencies and remove them, make it more consistent. I think we'd also be asking them to allow Erie County Health Department to look at the COVID transmission rates within our town or within our school district borders, and allow for Erie County to decide that, our transmission rates are low enough that masks wouldn't be mandated any longer. Again, to Chuck's point, we're not health officials. It's not for us to decide, but I think that we could trust our county health departments to be able to make those decisions, and that what's happening in one part of the state might not necessarily be happening in another part of the state. And so that needs to be recognized, that, if transmission rates are high 6 hours away from here, why are we, requiring masks here? Jump in. Anybody?
I would support the resolution as well. To Jane's point, the state mandates, every state's different. If you look at Google Maps and you look at the COVID-19 layer, it shows 7-day trends for COVID rates at the state level, the county level, the country level. In Erie County, last I checked, looked better than most other counties around New York State. And it should be at the county level, and we should challenge that. And if we do challenge it and things change, it could be ultimately up to the parents to decide what they want to do for their children. You can wear a mask to school if you want, and maybe not wear a mask if you don't want. I think it's worth a discussion, and we'll see where it ends up.
I
can't. I think it's difficult to say, would you support something that we're not seeing, that we're not reading? When you give one example about the football field, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When we talk about options of wearing masks within schools, that's something I disagree with. Our youngest students are not vaccinated, regardless of how people feel about that. They don't have access to that. We're in school buildings where we are not at the same levels where we were socially distanced last year. We do see higher number of cases than we saw last year. So to right now say that, and to, the option of parent choice takes that choice away from another child who wants people to be masked. So I know that there's going to be just as much disagreement as we've seen in the community. I've never felt that it was our personal beliefs that should be reflected in this whatsoever, because the guidance is there from the state, the guidance is there from the county. The county are looking at transmission. I worry about saying this town versus this town when we have teachers coming from every town, and many of us going out to work in towns and coming back here. So I worry about that a great deal. But I can't say whether I agree or disagree with something because I'm not seeing the specifics and the wording of it. So there may be things that are written in there that I completely agree with.
Right.
But at this point, some of the generalized statements that I'm hearing,
It's
I
not
don't.
written. That's why you're not
Well, I
seeing it.
understand that, but I mean, some of the
This is
general
conversation to
things.
see if we want to write one that we would be able to agree on and pass on to the state. So it's,
I see it as overstepping our bounds as a school board. It's fair to ask for policies to be revisited. It's fair for policies to be revisited for science. Challenging when we're hearing things from our county health department, to me, feels very different. And so,
are you saying that you'd be?
I'm saying that I do think the policies are updated and changed consistently with the changes that are happening. So I'm not sure the need for it personally.
Okay.
I'm curious about, I thought the guidance was coming from the county. Is that right?
I understand.
Yeah, it's coming from the county and
Okay,
state.
so the guidance is coming from the county.
Yeah,
So there-
I don't have it from me, so I can't tell you the exact date, but I'll say
Yeah.
August.
That
End of
was,
August.
That was a change that the state made, right? That
Yes.
they allowed the counties to offer guidance.
The county stepped down and gave that guidance before the switch in the governor. And then when the new governor came in, the new governor said, so the county came out, make sure I'm clear, the county came out with their guidance for schools before the new governor. Then the new governor came in and said, I'm coming out with guidance too. The state gave out guidance,
That was stricter.
I'll say September, pardon?
The state's guidance was stricter than the county guidance.
There were a little difference that made it a little stricter for some of the sports, where they were wearing their masks. And they had different comments in there about cafeterias and quarantining. So then I'll say that was September 2nd, 3rd-ish for the state. And then, which would have been a Thursday, so I had the meeting on the Friday and the Saturday where the county revisited with the superintendents, how they revised theirs for the start of school on the next Tuesday.
So basically you are taking the guidance from the county,
Yes, absolutely.
just to be clear about that.
But is the county taking their guidance from the state?
Correct. And that's where the state came out because under public health law, they're able to make these requirements for schools.
Is it fair to say then that the state took away the ability of the county to make guidance for our county versus the entire state?
Yeah, I don't like the word took away. What they did is clarified the guidance for the state so the counties were more uniform in how they were doing it. I can't speak for other counties, but what our county had done was very parallel to the state. So when I actually had to go through it, there were just minute changes that I had to make what the county had already put forth. So
So really, this Erie County was at the leading edge of offering guidance, and the state almost looked to us.
yeah, you can word it that way. I don't know how they interwork. Maybe they had inside knowledge of what the state was going to do. Maybe the state did copy Erie counties and make a few tweaks. That I can't speak to, but they were very, very identical, very similar. Similar, identical meant the same, so it's similar.
So what I'm hearing then is not to move forward with writing a resolution to the state.
I have to count to 2 before I start speaking. There's no problem writing a resolution, right? I mean, anybody can write a resolution.
Right. So what does the resolution say though? Like if it's just going to say.
Well, what I would say is, I've been taking notes. Your district clerk's been taking notes, and I would take back what you said. If the majority of the board would like to move forward with it, we would craft a resolution, send it out to you ahead of time to review, and then you would look at it at your next meeting and say yes, or wordsmith it. So if someone says, "Oh, I have trouble with a word,"
I thought it was a question if the board was going to read the resolution.
well, the board could write it. Typically a superintendent write a resolution, or I would get someone involved. But if you want to have a committee come together and write the resolution, that's great too.
Well, whatever board member is interested in it, why don't they put something together?
That would be great. I'd be more than happy that I got enough.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's the board's will.
So,
He's asking if you vote.
no.
You wouldn't really vote. You would just take like a straw vote to see where people are, to see where
we wouldn't
majority
actually
is.
vote until we actually had a resolution written that we were.
But we would ask how people are to make
Yeah.
sure we have a majority that wish to go forward.
Well, all right, so do we have, and I can't see Louise, so. Oh, she's not on, okay. So would you guys like for the board member who wanted to move forward with this, to start drafting one and bring it to the October meeting? To see what it actually would.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we really need to eliminate the inconsistencies. They're maddening. I mean,
We
like
don't
it
need
was brought up with
permission
the
for
sports,
somebody
it
to
makes
write
no
a letter.
sense.
Right? I mean, any board member could write anything down they want and bring it to the board and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
There's no, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
You can't agree or disagree until we know the specifics.
okay, so we'll bring it to the October meeting.
Yeah. Well, what I would recommend then is if you're interested in writing it, email Nora, and then she can connect those people together, and then they can find a common time and write it.
All right,
If that works.
very good.
Okay?
All right, and then ambassadors report. Does anybody have an ambassador report besides me? Go ahead, Michelle, you can go first.
Come to 2.
Okay, so Louise and I are the high school ambassadors to the high school, and they had a parent-teacher meeting on Tuesday, and neither of us were able to go, so we did send an email, and the president of PTO said she read it, but what I sent them, I would like some clarification on, actually, because I told them that late buses are back.
They're in the process of getting them back. You are correct. John is working on that with Eric right now. John's not here yet. He has a family thing he's at, so I don't have an update with that. But I will get an email on the Friday to see where John and Eric are on working that. You are absolutely correct, though.
So do you have an idea of like what time, how many runs?
Typically, I'm thinking they were thinking of 5 different runs that would cover the whole district. And they were debating between like 4:30. They were wanting to work with the high school, middle school to make sure that the clubs and everything were meeting that would fit for their schedule, and they're working on what days would be the best days of the week to have it. I think Friday was out, so I'm thinking of looking at the other 4 for 2 or 3 days there.
So you're thinking of like a 5 o'clock bus run 2 or 3 days a week?
More like 4:30 bus runs.
4:30, okay.
Yeah, but again, they're working on it, might end up being 5, so don't quote me on any of
Yeah,
this.
I just was curious because I was doing my own run and there were no buses and I was like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be like buses.
As you see in the news, there's a bus driver shortage, and with the runs, and
Yes.
that might be why it's taking a little longer.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Question is,
Thank you.
is this late bus run just for high school students, or is it also for the middle school?
It would be middle school too. We did everyone.
It'd be everybody on the main campus.
Correct. Everyone on the main campus.
Just FYI, back in the day, there were Monday, Wednesday at 4 o'clock and 5 days a week, 5 o'clock buses.
Monday,
And then they
Wednesday,
were
4, 5 days, 5. Yeah, I don't think that we put enough funds for the 5 days, but I will pass this along to John and Aaron.
Just,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know if we can bring back all of that, but, you know, they were well utilized. There were also more kids in the district at the time. Students. I reminded everybody that breakfast and lunches are available at no charge. And I do have a question about that because my understanding is students are limited to 1 lunch and 1 breakfast.
For the free, they're limited to 1.
But they can purchase another
They can
one.
purchase as many as they would like.
Okay. So say hypothetically, 1 student gets a lunch and then a 2nd student gets a lunch, but the first student eats both lunches.
Nice friend, I was sit next to him.
Right?
Nice friend, I sit next to him.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Yeah, all year. Sorry.
Yeah, once it's their lunch, but I would hope that whichever one was giving up their lunch had brought a lunch or something, so they
Of
weren't
course.
going hungry, of course. And I know that seems silly to say, but there are some times where students trying to make friends might do something like that. So that's something we would watch out for.
Give up their lunch, yeah.
Yeah, give up their lunch to
Yeah,
make a
no,
friend.
nobody wants that. And then welcoming the new principal. Very exciting.
27th,
Monday, right? That's next Monday.
yes.
I'm happy to represent Alma Primary as the board ambassador. I've met with Darcy, met with the staff the day before school after Doug's district-wide meeting with the staff, and I'm happy to be working with them, and had a few bits of feedback from either parents or teachers from the district at sporting events, but from my perspective, it's working out pretty good so far.
I had the opportunity to sit in on a Wales PTO meeting. I was so impressed with this group. They are so organized. Nothing like when I was in a PTO. They have a fundraiser right now selling T-shirts, and they gave me one, which was really sweet. And they also have another fundraiser that I just think is absolutely wonderful. And it's not just for Wales families, it's for anyone, anywhere. Like, you don't even have to be a member of the district. It is for $20, for a $20 fee for the sitting fee, you would get an 8x10 photo. And then additional photos of your family can be purchased there with either cash or credit card. It's fairly simple to do. You just sign up with, it's Wales PTO. I can't remember the email address, but it's actually in the community calendar of the Easter Advertiser and the Alma Review. So if you're interested in that, pick up a copy of get a hold of somebody's copy and get the Wales PTO email address, and they will help you sign up for a time. I think it's on October 2nd and October 3rd from 9 to 4, and I think sitting times are like 20 minutes long. the additional packages, you'll be able to see the pictures as soon as they take them. So you can actually buy those additional packages right there on the spot. So I thought that was a really great fundraiser from that organization. And they're doing lots of great things there. They talked about the opening and saying that the students were really enjoying being back and in person 5 days a week. And they talked about their harvest hoedown, which is going to change a little bit because of the COVID guidelines, but they're, going gung-ho over at Wales Primary. And I now know they're Wales strong, so Wales strong, go Wales. They're my new favorite people. So, something that's not on our list that I wanted to talk about is the Erie County Association of School Boards. We have a couple of big events coming up. There is the dinner on October 7th. If you have not already RSVP'd, please do so immediately to Nora tonight so she can let them know tomorrow who is going to be attending. We do have a couple of members that are going to be recognized at that dinner, so it would be nice to have you there. It is going to be at Self Tours. Then on October 14th is a speedboarding event. And again, if you're interested in attending that, it is at the Erie One BOCES building from 6:30 to 8:30. Let Nora know so that we can get our RSVP in for that as soon as possible. We have the Budget and Finance Committee already met. John, you were there for that. Anything you want to report?
No, there wasn't a whole lot. We're in the Erie County Association of School Boards is in very good financial help right now. I know Dave is here and
The executive director.
for the members of the ECASB, I know we're reducing or eliminating fees on some of the programming that we do. So, that's a perk. We haven't raised the dues and gosh, it's got to be at least 12 years that I've been on this board and associated with the Erie County Association of School Boards. So, that's a plus. One of the things that did come out of the meeting is we're using a pretty complicated formula right now to calculate the dues for the organization. And it was created quite a number of years ago. And I think we're going to revisit that and take a look at that to try to simplify it a little bit, So.
They also had a delegate meeting, and I know Heather attended that.
Yes, I did. I think I was one of the first board members that were there, and that was the first year, so I was very wet behind the ears. But it was good to meet with other school board members of other parts of the Erie County to hear that most of them had very similar challenges to what we're up against. And it was the first meeting, so it was just general updates. But it was good to meet other board members from other districts.
At the end of September, on September 30th, is a legislative committee meeting, and Michelle, you're our legislative representative. So we'll look forward to hearing how that went in October. There's also the legislative breakfast, which is November 13th, and I know that the legislative representatives were all notified already, and the invitation for the whole board will be coming out in the next day or two. They are limiting it to 2 members from a district, and then additional members can be put on a waiting list because of COVID guidelines and whatnot. But mark down November 13th, because it's a big event. Yeah, okay.
Jane, is it just worth mentioning that the New York State Conference was canceled?
Yeah, probably. The NYSBA conference has been actually not necessarily canceled, but moved to a virtual limited platform. So it would be on October 25th, and I believe it's automatic. If we registered for the convention, we get the access to the virtual. I'm disappointed, but I understand.
But we also get a refund for the conference fee, right? It's.
Yep, yeah, we get a
It's
full
awesome.
refund.
Does anybody else have anything else that they'd like to share?
Just one other question, Doug. So for the after-school buses, so we're planning on hiring more people just because I know that there's been some resignations from the bus garage.
Yeah. They're running tight right now, and I mean, you hear all the news about the bus drivers, and I forget which state is having National Guard come in, but here at Iroquois, we just focused on Iroquois. We are tight with the number of bus drivers we have, but there are a couple that are being trained right now. They should finish soon. And actually, New York State came out with updated guidelines for training so they can get through the program a little faster. So we should be doing better. I don't want to say great. So if you know someone with a CDL license, have them come in, and we'd be more than happy to use them. And it's a great opportunity, especially with all the sport runs and everything. So that, even to help at the end of the day, anything would be great here, subs, because that would be the next thing we would be concerned about. So we're not in clean water, but we're floating.
Okay, then that moves us on to the superintendent report.
So the superintendent's report, first I'd like to recognize, we'll start with campus. And we have Nick and Allison over here on the side. Wave, stand up, whichever you'd like to do. Oh, sure, I'll mention, so we're going to back up one thing from Marion County Association of the School Boards. We have Sue, which is probably what keeps Dave going in the right direction over here with them. So there she is. So thank you for coming, both of you. We really appreciate it. Now we'll move back to Nick and Allison again. And so with them, they're with campus, and they're our construction managers. So they really represent the district out there. They've done a great job of going through all the prints, looking at the bidding, putting it together, and holding the bid. And we also have Tim from the architect, who did a great job designing everything. And the bids came in favorable, which might allow us to do a complete scope. I don't know if either one of you group would like to say something about that, since you're heavily involved, and we do really appreciate the work you did for a good bid.
So yeah, I just wanted to give.
You can raise it up too if you want, you're a little taller.
I just wanted to stop back and give a quick update to the board to say that last Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, we hosted a bid opening here in the auditorium. We had fantastic bid participation, which was fantastic for the district. As Superintendent Schofield stated, that we had very favorable bids to where you could actually accept all alternates. So with our recommendation later tonight that you'll be hopefully approving, we're very excited to take the next step, which will be a shovel in the ground.
Thank you. Tim? And Tim is a proud Iroquois resident. I always like to point that out, so thank you.
Well, we'd like to take the opportunity to thank the board for the opportunity to do the design work for the district for the projects that we're about to build along with the CM and the contractors for you. We're hoping for smooth running on all the project work. We're also very encouraged, and I just want to reiterate what Nick just said, that there were 48 contractors that bid on the project. That is probably a record for the district at this point, and quite frankly, in the community for school districts, that is a very, very high number. You may remember many months ago, over a year and a half ago, we sat and deliberated together about when would we go out for vote and when would we go out for bid. And we kind of talked to you about the idea that right now would be a favorable time based on the fact that there's not a lot of other school districts out for bid at the moment, and it proved out to be true. And again, the district is, and the people of Iroquois are recipients of that good bid. So again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your work. What I did just pass to the board, or across the road, if you were standing in the current parking lot, and if you look at the picture with the clouds, you can kind of see the current building there in the corner of the roof. So this is the angle you're looking at, and this is the concept of what we're looking to do for that front entranceway. I wanted to show it to the board. We're not, obviously, we're not building this tomorrow. The entranceway, we got to dig up the dirt, do a lot of foundation. But I want to show it to you for any of the questions you have there. And if you look at the third picture from it, you can see where we have the bricks in place. That was the question they had before. We made a little green spot on the side. We have the letter I there for when you're walking in. The reason we chose white is because red is, I've been told, red is a very difficult color to maintain through the, is it UV lights? To break it, not lights, but sun, that break it down. And the other picture, which is just more of a blueprint picture, if you look at the back side of it, that, what they have for pictures, they can only have that wooden bar going across it, but this is more what we're looking at for above it, which would actually match above the scoreboard. So that would parallel, this would carry through. So this, we just couldn't produce a picture other than this for Iroquois. And the reason you see the square behind the word Iroquois is because when you go to other schools and you see they just have the letters up there, that's the one you work in, you will see it looks funny from the back side. And if you try to put other letters on the back side, they don't match up and cover it. And that's why this concept was put this way, so that when you walk in or out, you see the word Iroquois and it looks clean and crisp. Did I get everything? They're all not in their head. So I want to make sure that this concept looks good to everyone. And if not, we have plenty of time to tweak it, because they should, you know, approving the bids tonight, they would start breaking ground first, second week of August. I'm sorry, not August, that's past, October. And they would have to work through the whole winter. So we do have time to make modifications here if you think there's anything necessary. The pillars, the stone in those would actually match the high school. So we're carrying the theme across the road to have everything blend together. So any questions on this or anything you see that jumps out at you quickly?
I do have a question. It says here monument paver area. Is that something that is still being pursued by the various boosters and whatnot to create a fundraiser for?
At this time, I don't know.
Or
of
is
any.
this just here in case they
It's in
decide
case
to
for
do
the
that?
future.
I think it was, I asked about it last time, because I think that, and that's why I asked about it, because that seemed to be a very popular idea for booster organizations, but PTOs, family, you know, just families. It's something that while the turf field discussions were going on, people were reaching out to us and like me and asking, who do I mail it to? And I was like, I don't know. So I wanted to know where that was. Now seeing it, seems like the time is right in the next year. So maybe we could reach out to our PTOs, boosters, and say, if people had interest, now is the time to start that in some way.
Start organizing it.
Yeah.
And I want to say there's some forward thinking in this, because where you see the word food truck, that's where, when we talked to current boosters, they said that's the method they're using to supply food at games, rather than having a concession stand and do it. But that pad they're sitting on is where we prepare for a concession stand and a couple team rooms, bathrooms. So if they were to do a fundraising to build that, remember that's non-aidable by the school. This would be the locations there. There's a place to put fundraising. It's all prepared for something of that nature.
Well, I just think when it's being built, that is exciting. That's when people are, you know, wanting to become a part of something that has taken a long time to see the groundbreaking. So, I want to start that ball rolling somehow.
And by all means, you know, I don't need, you know, if you look at it, it looks, you know, pretty good. I don't need an answer tonight. You can email me, and we can look at it later, because like I said, we don't need this answer tonight, tomorrow. So please don't feel, there's no pressure whatsoever. Take a month, look at it, sleep on it, give me an email, ask a question, because whatever you give me, I'm going to look down to those guys and pass it along and see what they think of it and the feasibility of it.
Is this also going to the facilities group at the strategic strategic planning subcommittee.
It could,
I mean,
could,
this would be the perfect opportunity.
right now, the front hasn't, because the group right now, they're just coming up with, I might have the wrong word, and I know you guys can help me, strategic intent. And then from there, the committee after that would be the one that could look at this definitely and say, yep, we'd like it a little better because of this reason, forward thinking.
That's the point, right? Of
Yep, that's the point of it, yep, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that it's just, we're
'Cause
gonna get there soon, for that
I mean-
timeline, the last meeting, we should be getting there soon.
You know, to be honest and clear, like looking at 3 pieces of paper for a project of that scope, I don't think it's fair to say like, is this okay?
Oh, no, this
You
is
know what
only
I
for, no, this is only for the front entranceway there.
Yeah, but honestly, even then, my spatial relation skills are abysmal. So I would need like more help looking at this to see what it's actually gonna look like instead of looking. Do you know what I mean?
All right, no problem. We got
That's
Tim, he's
all.
on the facilities committee.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the impression that we were going to have like nice big displays so that the community could see the concept. And
Yeah, those are the same, those are the ones that we use during the vote. And those are actually sitting in my office, ready to get out as we start the work. So the bids came in, so those will start to be out once the board accepts the bids.
So like the documents that you've given us, these will
is
these
the
be
same as
shown?
this?
These were not part of those because, like with the picture going across with the wood, that's not accurate. We would have to make accurate ones for that. What they are, what you saw when we were doing the vote, all the different schematics, we've had the scales and measurements on it. I'm looking to Tim, he's nodding his head, so I'm saying it correctly.
When will the community get to see what, these projected, this is what it's gonna look like?
The boards that were during the vote, they already got to see them during the vote, but they'll be put back out now once they did it. Not, these drawings are not made sheets yet.
Well, when these drawings are made accurate, about how much longer will it be before the community starts to get to see these type of things?
Depending on your comments coming back, Tim, how long would it take to make some of these? Couple weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Be better, we can all hear you.
So as Doug said, the boards that were used in the beginning, pre-vote, pre-bond vote, would be the boards that you could display immediately. And that would be something that Doug can kind of take care of with the staff. As far as the renderings that you're looking at in front of you, any updates, we would look for the feedback from the committees, and then we would develop that a bit further to get it to be where you want. So, we could be looking at inside the, end of the month of October, would likely be a good opportunity to do that if there's feedback backward.
Is anybody else?
The only thing that sticks out when I look at it is the old black building that is there currently, is that where the restroom facilities are gonna be? Or are there gonna be?
Correct.
Restroom facilities?
That's where they are right now. We did not have the scope to build new restroom facilities in this. But we did plan for it. That's where that pad is with the food trucks.
We did add a restroom though, right?
Pardon?
Didn't we add a restroom to the current facility? Didn't we?
No, we did not add any restrooms though. That was the last vote. It wasn't in this vote at all. Right, Tim?
How about the science rooms? When do we
this-
start to see things about the other changes to this capital project?
The science rooms are still in there. That's the design that the board was shown that came from the science teachers.
How many restrooms are there currently?
I'm
2?
trying to remember because we said it. I'm Coach Jacobs left, he would know. I don't want to, I'm saying 2 on each side, but I'm trying to remember back a few months ago when I presented it. So I would not rely on my answer.
But more than one.
Yes, more than one.
Okay.
Yep. And I feel bad because I was over there actually unlocking them today for the girls field hockey because they were locked while they were over there. And then I just didn't walk in when I was there.
Single use, multiple use?
Multi-use. Yeah, so 2 people would be in there at the same time. I mean, I do think in the future that is definitely something, that's why we built that pad in there, that would be addressed, but because there was no aid for that, that was one of the, from the last vote to this vote, that was one of the changes that was made to change the price and the scope. So we're looking to start the field in October. We're also looking to start putting the solar panels out at Marilla Primary this fall. So that's it with the capital project. Opening of, if you're all set, unless you want more, we're going to go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, so if we start breaking ground in October, and we have a fairly decent winter and we're working all through the winter, is it a possibility that we would be able to have this field in use at the beginning of the fall next year?
Our goal, and I'm looking, yeah, I got Allison with a thumbs up already, but I'm going to say our goal is to have it ready for fall usage.
Just one real quick. You said that the bids came in favorable, like they were lower than what we expected, or they were?
Yeah, they're a little bit lower than we expected. So in talking with our consultants, right now what we're going to do is get the work started, get the shovel in the ground, make sure there's no undiscoverables. And what we mean by that is you open a wall and there's asbestos in it. That's pretty expensive change. Once we get things opened up, we see where they are, then we would come back, the board at one of its meetings, I don't want to say which one because I don't remember, had like 3 different items that Allison has reported of what they'd like to look at first, if there's the funds available to do extra work.
So if there's funds available after with the low bids, is that able to be allocated towards like restrooms, concessions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the restrooms, if I remember right, restroom facilities, STEM, and I can't remember the third one for the life of me, but Allison has it recorded back in her notes. All right, so that's with the capital. Opening of school. So one question I usually get from somebody, and I wasn't asked this year, so I felt sad, so I'll tell you anyways, is how many students are leaving for homeschool or private schools, compared to the previous year. So by looking at those 2 together, last year there were about 325 students attending, homeschooling or private schools. That's 325. This year there's about 312. So actually there's less people attending homeschooling and private schooling. The other thing I wanted to say about opening a school is the other night there was an accident out on one of the athletic fields, and with that the AD, I had some questions when I was called. And the AD did a great job reviewing the procedures. And we do have the service for a trainer through UB Sports. I might have the wrong name, but I know it's UB something. And what will happen is now we'll have a second individual on staff for if there's ever someone is split and has to go somewhere. Where this is very important, why it's good it was discovered now, and even on really unfortunate circumstances, because in the winter, the trainer will go to ice hockey games as a trainer, which would leave basketball, wrestling, and other winter swimming without a trainer here on the campus. So we're able to take care of that now. It's the first I heard of it, but that will be taken care of. Any questions with that?
In this case, the trainer was traveling with the football team, correct?
Correct. What had happened is, what had happened is, and I guess it's a practice that had been happening. And I know that the athletic trainer or the AD is looking at more practices now to be very inclusive. Left before the games were done here. It had happened in past years, but the athletic trainer stayed longer here and then would travel to the football. It didn't happen this time, and this is my understanding, not just talking from her, but from athletic directors in the past and what were past experiences. And so therefore, it will not happen again.
It is also important to note that we do give all of our coaches training for emergency situations, correct?
Yeah, I find it very interesting that the state has no requirement for an athletic trainer. That is just something schools have taken on and done, and I think it's a very smart thing to do. By all means, I don't think we should change it, but all the coaches have first aid, CPR, and I want to say the coaches on the field, from everything that I have seen from that, they responded very well, did a good job in doing the best they could. That there was no nothing that would have been different if a trainer had been there. And when they say, well, Doug, how are you able to review this? You're not a doctor. And no, I'm not a doctor, but I have been on the National Ski Patrol for 35 years, so I have gone through a plethora of injuries. Now, I wasn't there, so maybe what they told me is wrong, because I don't have firsthand, I have firsthand witnesses telling me, but I didn't witness it firsthand. But it really seems the response was very appropriate for what was done. But again, that's through secondhand information of piecing it together. The other thing, so this seems like we're going down a bunch of negative things here. At the middle school, on the first day, there was a whole bunch of congestion with cars. The first day, really, a lot of cars were backed up. We immediately changed that for the next day to have earlier drop-off. So therefore, the parents who were coming there and waiting could let their children off right away. That really seemed to alleviate the concern. So therefore, that worked very well. We're still working on the after-school one. Officer Plato is key. He's been over there this week. He has recommendations that we are going to be implementing. So thank you, Joe, for taking the time to go over and do that. And he is going to keep on it until we get it the best it can be. So other than that, moving to some other stuff, it's really great to have 100% people in person. You hear the students speak, so I won't take away anything they said. I did meet with my student cabinet, which was great, because I really didn't get many meetings with them last year with everything. And they said this is so much better than last year. They really like being in school. That was one common theme in there. They love it. It's great with the extracurricular and the activities, the athletics. They like that. They're glad to be together. They say the instruction is much more engaging. So that's great to hear. I said, what do you think? And that was one of the things they stated without prompting. And they did say that last year they did like the ability to sleep in a little later than having to come to school. But they were really pretty positive about everything. Next week, to remind everyone, is homecoming. And we'll be having a homecoming. It'll be a little different, but because we need to follow all the safety protocols, but it will happen. And Mrs. Muskoff has done she always goes outstanding along with the student government. And the principals are looking to support her in this. And they will be having different things, like there'll be a dance, but it'll be outside. They're looking at the tent, they're looking at a secure area on the tennis courts. So I know she was getting different lights for that, because that is one of the things we can do, just like you look at like an athletic event. We will be having a pep rally, but that'll be with additional safety by spacing. And what we're having the pep rally is outside on the football field. So they'll walk down there and have it out there. That way they can space out. And they're only going a little above, because outside there's distancing is different, but they're still going to have them distance. But being outside will make it so much better than inside. They do have plans for if it rains, where they'll be breaking the groups up to make sure their spacing and all the requirements are in there. And then they'll be having the different events throughout the week and the different themes of the days. And that's all I have for superintendent's report.
All right, that brings us to recognition of guests. Board, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who would be recognized, which is 3 more than we normally do. Although some of them are not, based on what they wish to comment on, are not necessarily exactly the same thing. But just for the sake of going through it, can I ask, are you all willing to hear all 6 people rather than limiting? Okay. All right, and so the first person that would like to be recognized is Amy Kotecki. And again, remember please that you have 3 minutes. Thank you. After I get the microphone, I hope. Yes.
Yes, please have the microphone working appropriately.
Okay. I don't know if I'm
Mike, could you help her out a little bit, please?
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Amy Kotecki. I've been a teacher here in the Iroquois Central School District for 21 years. I'm here tonight to talk about my frustration with the medical mandates. Let me start by saying these mandates are doing nothing but harm. And this mask, same thing. I wear it to keep my job. These type of masks were not designed to filter viruses. They are doing more harm than good, both physically and psychologically. Our students are made to wear them for over 6 hours a day. These masks lower blood oxygen levels by trapping carbon dioxide that is proven to be dangerous. They are a filthy breeding ground for bacteria. I'm going to my dermatologist on Friday to treat a painful infected sore behind my ear that developed after I came back to work 2 weeks ago. These masks are causing psychological damage as well, and they serve as a constant reminder of fear of a virus that has a statistically 0% death rate in children. Masks and social distancing cause anxiety, mental health issues, cognitive developmental problems, and countless police interventions at home. Knowing all of this, it should be a parental choice. That is the reason we homeschool our 2 children in the Iroquois district. Parents that are here tonight, I support you. We all know that it's not going to end with these mandates. Did you know that on June 24th, the emergency powers ended? Kathy Hochul has no power to impose these mandates. Faculty and staff keep getting told there are no answers, and we have to wait until guidance comes out at the end of this month to see what adjustments need to be made to the plan that is put in place. As a dedicated teacher for 22 years with a dual bachelor's degree, master's degree, and special certification in reading, I am not willing to throw it all away. I know what you might be thinking. I'm not an epidemiologist or a virologist, but I don't need to be to talk about logic. The CDC and Jen Psaki said, and I paraphrase, vaccinated people carry and transmit the virus. If it was really about safety, you would be testing every single person, regardless of vaccination status, that steps foot in the school, and you would have begun testing on the first day of attendance. In Israel, the hospitals are full of vaccinated, sick, and dying people. The proof from doctors is overwhelming that the injection is harmful and it is not preventing COVID. The testing is currently only for emergency use, and according to Dr. Fauci, PCR tests are cycled too many times at a rate that deems the results unreliable, until he changed his story. Never before have doctors been banned from prescribing known therapeutics that have been used millions of times. Something is just not right, and I cannot be silent any longer. You may be in agreement with all this now. However, at some point, you may not want the 3rd, 4th, or 5th booster, and you won't be able to do anything about it. In my opinion, threatening me and my source of income and career that I love and am damn good at to coerce me into getting experimental injections and invasive testing experiments is a violation of my God-given constitutional rights, my infringement on my religious beliefs. And I do not appreciate comments behind my back about those religious people. This is harassment under board policy 3420, and believe me, I'm keeping track of all of it. I'm asking you, Mr. Schofield, and the members of the school board, do you support human rights? Do you support religious freedoms? Do you follow the Constitution? Are you really doing what's best for kids? Then I implore all of you to put an end to this bullying, witch hunt, and abuse now, and advocate for what is right. Those who are afraid always end up worse than the courageous.
Amen.
Next to the microphone is Jane Cass.
Amen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hang on just a minute. Board,
Do we want to waive the 3 minutes so that somebody can complete the end of their statement once the 3 minutes is up? As long as you're close to the end. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm Jane Cass. I'm a proud mom of 2 Iroquois graduates, and I have been subbing in the Iroquois system for many years up until the first COVID moved to remote learning. I think it's important as instruction and activities ramp up and we face these new challenges with the variant. To speak up as a member of the community who spent time subbing most recently at Elma Primary, though I've been at the high school and middle school in the past year. I have a master's degree in behavioral disorders. With students, for health reasons, I'm not subbing right now. But given the inability to have vaccination as a safety option at this time for our youngest and most vulnerable kids in school, as well as the ability of even fully vaccinated adults to unintentionally yet easily transmit an even more contagious Delta variant to our kids, to that variant of COVID-19 to these children we care for, I implore the board to put the lives and health of our kids above any inconvenience or frustration some may have, which you just heard extreme frustration. It is, to have the mask on is frustrating, but my point is that we care for these children. We put their lives and health above any inconvenience or frustration some may have surrounding the mandated masking, which is valid, it's frustrating in school at this time. Their frustration is real, but so unfortunately at this time, the strong probability that the variant will spread quickly and widely without masks as we go into this next phase of surge. It'll be beyond frustrating or inconvenient if we ignore the science and permit the variant to spread and accelerate infections in our community. And children have died from COVID. That has happened. It's not a zero. They have died. It may not be somebody directly right now in this community, but it happens quickly. It spreads quickly. The frustration of yet another year starting off with a perhaps devolving into a return to remote learning far outweighs the inconvenience of masking, hand washing, and distancing. Ultimately, any inconvenience is negligible compared to an accelerated spread of this variant among kids that don't even have vaccination yet as an option. We are holding out just barely until it looks like they're going to get something approved in October, which doesn't mandate all parents have to give their kids vaccination. But it is so unfair to take masks off kids that don't even have the option, that parents don't even have the option. It's such a short space of time before they all have the option to vaccinate. So, given the increased hospitalization of young people and children we're seeing right now across the nation, we now know children do contract COVID. It's happening at schools in the South, where I have family, and has opened without masks. They've opened without masks, and I don't know who's not been watching what's happening in the South.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You are at your 3 minutes, so please wrap it up.
Okay. Well, all I can say is let's do the things we can do to get through this safely. The masks and the other protocols are necessary to this end. Hopefully, this will keep our kids on campus instead of in front of screens at home, so we can get back to safe, unmasked activities sooner rather than later by stopping the spread now. Mask now so we can unmask sooner. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a quick reminder to everyone, if you could just make sure, really appreciate how everyone's in great compliance with how we're asking for the mask. If you could just check them to make sure they're up and where they're supposed to be, that would be awesome. So greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, the next person that would like to be recognized is Cindy. Nice.
Here she comes.
Can you hear me? All right. Good evening. My name is Cindy Bednaz. I want to thank the board tonight and the superintendent for addressing this topic this evening. But I would like to use this public forum to comment on education Iroquois currently provides to students who are in quarantine during a pandemic, so the board can understand what it looks like to families at this time. I do understand, and I agree with, to maintain a healthy school and community, quarantines are a needed tool for public health, so that has my full support. But I want to talk about education for these children. This week, in a district-wide message, it was stated that the district understands that having a child in quarantine creates a multitude of different challenges for every family. We will continue to monitor our method of delivering instruction to quarantined children. The key word is delivering instruction. For lay people like me, who aren't educators, those two words sound very impressive. Kids in quarantine are delivered instruction. It seems great, but what I want everybody to understand is the meaning of delivering instruction currently in our district. You might be shocked, as I was, to find out that delivering instruction means you pick up a packet of schoolwork and the school's job is done. Ta-da, they just delivered instruction, like delivering a pizza. No disrespect, but that's what it was. But I picked it up. But let's not stop there. Iroquois' delivery of instruction also includes zero engagement from teachers, zero teaching from the school, zero interaction with the classroom, zero education from the school, and zero school-initiated communication with the student. This is not acceptable. This sounds more like abandonment than delivering instruction. Iroquois District's goal is to provide consistent high levels of engagement for all students. And the district, please show us how all students are being engaged in this model. Last year, we were told how important social emotional learning is. Where is it? It's nowhere. This is unacceptable. In conclusion, I have come to a Board of Education meeting to beg the school district to teach quarantined children. This is an urgent matter that needs to be resolved immediately. We cannot let one child go a day longer not receiving the education Iroquois has promised to give. Thank you for your time.
Next is Taryn Booker.
Hello. My name is Taryn Hooker. I know you probably all know me. I tend to speak a lot of these things, but I don't really have anything prepared too much tonight. I just also wanted to come up here and commend whoever wanted to put in that resolution letter. I appreciate that very much coming from a mom who has a child who struggles wearing masks. Within a couple of days of my son being back at school, he started with tics with his eyes again. He started making a funny grunting sound when he was breathing. He also did bring my attention to the fact that when he's at school, he feels lightheaded, and he also feels like his heart is beating a lot faster. Like he has a much higher heart rate, and he is breathing faster as well. So I know that not all of you are in agreement of having an option for masks, but there are children that struggle wearing their masks, and my son is one of them. He also has difficulty focusing in school. So as you can imagine, having to wear a mask makes it that much harder for him to even just learn. I did want to also touch on and ask, had you heard of the Freedom of Information request that was released last week by the Department of Health from Erie County? In that request, it was asked how many children had been hospitalized, how many children had also contracted COVID while in school for the entire year and a half. Erie County doesn't have any of that information. Zero. They can't provide any sort of information to this person. If they have the information, they have to provide it. It's the law. And as far as hospitalizations and deaths for COVID for children that are under the age of 18 for the entire year and a half, unfortunately, there was one, but it was one. I know one is too many, but in the grand scheme of things, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of children, I'm sure, that have contracted it. I know back in 2020 in February, when I was at my son's school for Valentine's Day party, there was at least 4 kids in the class sick. Who knows? It could have been COVID. We don't know. At that point, we weren't testing for anything. But I guess I'm just appreciative that you are going to look into writing a resolution letter and trying to get something changed, because there are children that are suffering. I know that it doesn't seem like it, but 18 months in the grand scheme of a child's life is quite a big chunk. And they don't get those years back. Thank you.
Next is Linda Transky.
All right, Linda.
My name is Linda Transky. I'm reading this on behalf of a teacher in the district, Lauren Fox. This is her 18th year with the district, and she's had the pleasure of teaching many of our children over the years. Thank you for letting me speak and valuing me as a stakeholder, which clearly is not the case because you're not letting her speak. I am here not only for myself, but for many of my colleagues who don't feel they have a voice. There are teachers, aides, office personnel, cleaners, bus drivers, and cafeteria workers who are afraid of the medical mandates being imposed on us regarding vaccination and testing. Some people, including myself, are opposed because of religious beliefs. Some have made their decision based on other medical conditions. Others have had COVID and know that their natural immunity is far greater, as recent studies have shown. Others have looked at the data and decided that the risks of the vaccine outweigh the risk of COVID. As educators, we are here to teach our students how to think, not what to think. The people in the district who oppose vaccination and testing are highly informed. They are thinking for themselves and not just following the narrative being promoted by unelected bureaucrats. We constantly hear how the vaccines are safe and effective compared to last year at this time. Before we had vaccines, cases are now up 300%. If the vaccines are effective, how is this possible? According to the CDC, there have been more deaths from COVID than there have been deaths from all other vaccines combined over the last 30 years. There have been 10,000 deaths in the last 3 months alone. If the vaccines are safe, how is this possible? According to the CDC, children have a 99.997 survival rate, statistically 0. Yet there's this push to vaccinate all kids. Someone in my age group has a 99.98 survival rate. I have a much greater chance of dying in a car crash from cancer, heart disease, stroke, than I do from COVID. So I ask, if COVID does not pose a considerable risk and the vaccines are proving to be neither safe or effective, why are we being coerced into taking them? You are making your employees put something into their bodies that they don't want. When one is forced to choose between removal of their basic liberties or to unwillingly consent to a medical procedure, this amounts to coercion. Testing in lieu of vaccination is not a reasonable accommodation, it's discriminatory. The vaccinated are getting and spreading COVID. A recent Oxford study found that fully vaccinated healthcare workers carried over 250 times the virus in their nasal pharynx than the unvaccinated. My own son just came off quarantine from a single case on his football team. The child who tested positive was vaccinated. Your employees are being identified, segregated, and discriminated. If the vaccinated can also get and transmit COVID, then they should be required to test as well. I don't think that anyone should be tested. The tests are faulty, producing an unacceptable number of false positives. They cannot distinguish between the common cold, flu, or COVID. None of the tests are FDA approved. I'm sure the district will say they are following the guidance from the state or Department of Health. However, guidance is not law. Do you agree with the coercion and discrimination? If not, what would happen if you choose to stand up for your employees and did not follow this guidance? I think the Iroquois community would support you for standing up to tyranny. We're witnessing unprecedented exertion of power by the government. I continue to be shocked by the acquiescence of the American people to destructive, arbitrary, and wholly unscientific rules, restrictions, and mandates. You all took oaths upon your election to uphold the Constitution. Please honor your oaths and do everything in your power to stand up and defend our religious, constitutional, and basic human rights.
And the last person who's asked to be recognized is Tom Breyer.
Check. Hello, I'm Tom Breyer. I'm a district resident and a parent of 4 Iroquois students, 3 that have graduated already. So, I mean, it's obvious there's a lot of anger around the COVID safeguards that have been put in place based on New York State, New York County. And that's understandable. We've all lost a lot of control over our lives, where we can go, when we can go, who we can see, when we can travel. So that's completely understandable. But I'm angry too. I'm angry because I had 2 seniors last year, one last year and one year before, that lost almost their entire senior years. So all of their events, all of their activities, athletics, concerts, proms, dances, everything was gone. All those memories can never be brought back. I'm angry because so many people have gotten sick, so many people have died. But I'm not angry at you. This district, you guys were rock stars when COVID hit. You hit the ground running, getting remote learning going. And that was fantastic. And there were so many teachers that went above and beyond what was expected of them in order to keep those relationships going with their students and between their students to make sure that the kids didn't try to reduce the negative impact of learning from home. So that was just fantastic. I'm really disturbed by some of the arguments that are made here against some of the anti-COVID restrictions. The notion that this isn't a big deal, not too many people die, only a few kids die, a few kids get sick. I mean, there's almost 2,000 people a day in the US dying from this disease. So that's like 2 9/11s or 1 9/11 every 2 days. I mean, that's outrageous. That's a huge amount of people. The other disturbing thing I've heard is that, well, the students that are more vulnerable to really getting sick, maybe those kids that are recovering from surgery or that have other issues that they're dealing with, well, those kids should stay home. And that way, the kids that are at school, they don't have to endure the discomfort of wearing a mask. So that means these kids that are already struggling, they're the ones, they should stay home. They should be ostracized so that our kids don't have to be uncomfortable wearing a mask. So I can assure you that this selfish notion is not supported by the majority of residents in this district. What I really want to make sure that the kids are in school and that they are safe and that they are protected and healthy. And I guess what I'd really like to make sure that is if we're following these mitigation procedures, if our numbers are good and our kids are staying healthy, that we keep all of these activities that are so important to the academic and social life of these kids. So don't cancel concerts, don't cancel proms, dances. These things are super important to these kids, and they're the things that make the memories. So do our best to make it work for the kids and make sure they have a full academic and fun year in such a difficult environment. Last thing I'd say is because there's been some talk about the quarantining. So it's super important that the kids stay in school, right? So quarantining, it isn't great for the kids. They're going home and like Cindy said, dropping packets off at home. So there's a program or policy or procedures that's being followed by a couple school districts in Massachusetts and Georgia called Test and Stay, and where instead of quarantining, the kids are fast tested every morning, and if they're negative, they get to stay. And of course, if they're positive, then they have to go home and quarantine. But at least then, the students are staying in school. So that's the most important thing. So that's all. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you to everyone who attended and spoke, and for the respectful way that our audience conducted themselves this evening. I appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to agenda item 10, discussion on agenda items 11.2 through 11.5.6. Is there any discussion?
Quick thank you to the people that are retiring. So their service has been great. I know each one of them, and they're great. Really appreciate everything they were doing. And then the other thing is we did have the internal and external audit. I think we do have a board member on that. I didn't know if they wanted to speak at all. If not, I can. John gave me the information. I wasn't at the meeting, but John gave me information. So the internal audit, there were 3 areas review: payroll and benefits, the retiree enrollment and payments to the district. There were no findings, which is a great thing. It means they did a great job. Payroll and benefits, compensatory time and stipends. There were 2 instances of time being allowed to carry over, and they just want better documentation for that process. So that John has informed me that will be done. And the transportation inventory, everything was great, but with the program we have, it has items in there. I'll say a flux capacitor that we no longer use, but it's still in there, even though we don't have a part. So they say we should be updating that software for that program. The external audit, and I won't go through every page. It says, "Dear board members," just to highlight one statement here quick, we noted no transactions entered into the district during the year for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance and consensus, which means the board is the primary responsibility of fiscal oversight, did a fabulous job. Everything was perfect with that. I shouldn't say perfect, everything was great, what should be done. And they encouraged no significant difficulties in dealing with the management. So that means everyone in the business office was worked great with them, which is great to hear. They really do a good job over there of looking at the finances. They treat every penny like their own. And there were 3 findings. 2 of them are very similar. And one is a review of capital assets. That would be an inventory of all the items within the district. And there was no formal review report completed. And what that means is we have asset management come in here that reviews all the items. That report is generated, given to the district, but nowhere on that form when it was given was there a signature to prove that someone went over it. So that process is going to be changed. And then there are 2 was extracurricular activities, about club treasurers maintaining their own club ledgers, and another one about verification of balances and training to do this. And I really think that last year being a COVID year, the students weren't around to receive the training, and they weren't here to be able to do the books because they weren't here every day. That's what John said, and so therefore both of those should be corrected this year. Did I do okay? All
Not
right.
bad. So, just one thing, there is a pamphlet that's given out for.
Oh yeah, pamphlet number 2.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's for
That's
guidance.
literally the name of it.
Probably for guidance on, so it's basically financial training for students so that they learn how to keep track of a not-for-profit and balance sheet and all of that stuff. So, I think we're gonna make sure that gets distributed.
Perfect, and I think that's great, because that's one of the intentions of all clubs, is so they learn how to run a business, the financial aspect of it. So
Right.
Great.
But not surprisingly, those extracurriculars are on the audit report every year. It's a learning experience.
Any other discussion? Okay, is there a request to withdraw specific items from the agenda? Okay, is there a request to add specific items to the agenda? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda items 11.2 through 11.5.6?
Second, please.
Louise is here. Okay.
Just, can you see her?
I
She
can't.
can't vote if we can't see her. Yeah. No, someone else has the second.
Okay. All in favor, and because I can't see Louise, we have to do a roll call, don't we?
No, she can't vote if you can't see her.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
the
All right.
finding was.
So it's like she's just sitting.
To be abstained.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
But I can't, yeah, okay. All right, motion carries. And that brings us to.
No executive session.
Is that where we're?
Yep.
I gotta get to
Oh,
the
I'm
end.
sorry, possible recognition of guests. We can have it.
We don't have any more forms, so there's no recognition of guests at the end of the meeting. We do not need an executive session, so that brings us to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second. Discussion? All in favor? And that means we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.